Welcome back to another episode of Female Fridays. I'm very excited to have my special guest, Amber Bardon, here with us. Hello, Amber. Welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here, Rachel.
I am so excited to talk with you. Today's episode is going to be all about creating an intentional culture. But before we dive into that topic, I would love to hear first how you got into the senior living industry.
Wow, I've been in senior living for about 20 years, almost 20 years at this point, which
Okay.
seems crazy. It's definitely a career. And I got into senior living almost kind of by accident. I knew someone who worked at a senior living community here in Chicago, and they had an opening, and she got me an interview. And I ended up coming into that organization at a very entry level help desk position. And
Mhm.
I ended up staying there for 9 years, and I got promoted 6 times. And I really just
Nice.
learned the senior living industry in every single aspect of senior living. So that organization had home health, hospice, assisted living, adult day, transportation, community services, ALIL HUD. So, I just really became very familiar with the business end of senior living as well as the technology end.
That is so awesome. And it's funny because I feel like so many of us end up in this industry by accident. But how did you go from being at the help desk and getting promoted there and really learning the industry to building and launching your own company?
I really enjoy challenges and problem solving. And I think that's one of the most important skill sets you need to be successful as an entrepreneur. But from a practical point of view, I ended up getting my master's degree in project management and becoming a certified PMP. So I was at the organization I was at. I moved from help desk over to business systems and eventually IT director pretty quickly. So I spent most of my time, really understanding business processes and strategy and learning about the day-to-day business needs of a community. So coming in and teaching a nurse how to use EMR on the third shift, but then also understanding the big picture and how do we build strategy to understand where we need to go. That's what I picked up from my 9 years at the organization I was at. And then what led me to start my own company is I had sort of reached the limits of what I could do with that community, and I was looking to change jobs. And at that time, my kids were 1 and 3. And it was really important to me to be able to have flexibility and to be able to, as a working mom, have be able to work from home or take my kids in if they got sick. So originally, I didn't think to start my own company, and I just interviewed for IT director jobs in the Chicago area. And I had experiences. I had one company say we'd never interviewed a woman before. I had people ask, just you don't want to work, you don't want to work part time. And having been in the senior living industry for a while and understanding there was a need to create a technology company to solve the technology challenges that are coming, I decided to go ahead and start a business. And, a lot of my experiences in that process were my inspiration for creating our award-winning culture. And I was able to found Parasol Alliance and start a business by actually getting 5 providers to become investors. So our company is actually owned by 5 of our clients, which is a really unique business structure. And it actually gives a lot of flexibility to focus on what do we actually need to do to take care of our clients and staff first.
I want to take you back to what you said that when you were interviewing for this IT role, you had people tell you, we've never interviewed a woman before. How did you feel in that moment? And has that inspired you to bring more women into tech roles?
It's like sometimes you hear things like that and you're just in a little bit of a state of shock, like that
Hmm.
people actually still say things like that.
Yeah.
If you've ever been in a situation where you've been mansplained or, you're speaking to someone and they don't even look at you and they look at your male colleague. And anytime these things happen,
Yeah.
I think you're just a little bit like, is this really happening to me right
Hmm.
now? So I think I felt a little bit about of that. And I think that's just, a shared experience that women in leadership have is a lot of times we have these just like little things that happen that you don't really think about maybe too much in the moment, but afterwards you're just a little bit like reflecting on how that made you feel. And so, to that end, to create the happiest IT company in the world, I really thought about it from the perspective of what do I want? whatever I want as a working mom, other people want in their life, whether they have kids or they don't have kids or whatever they want that work-life balance essentially is what it comes down to. And especially for parents, you don't want to be put in that position. And any parent listening to this has been there. We are deciding, do I send my kid to daycare on Advil with a fever, or do I call in sick to work? And
Mm.
so Parasol Alliance is 100% virtual. Today we have over 80 employees and continuing to grow and planning to, double, triple that number in the next couple of years. We're in multiple states, we're in multiple countries, and we've maintained that 100% virtual environment. And we've also maintained our incredible commitment to culture. So we've won 27 Best and Brightest Workplace Awards. We do a lot of employee engagement where we ask employees one-on-one mandatory meetings several times throughout the year. What are we doing well? And the number one thing we always hear is collaboration and culture, which is pretty incredible.
So, building an intentional workplace culture does require more than good intentions, of course. So, I'd love to know, what does intentional mean to you, and how does it show up in your company's policies or day-to-day operations?
I think that's a really great point. So, I think the thing to understand about building a great workplace culture is it does not happen by accident. You
Mm-hmm.
can't just look the other way and expect a great culture to just manifest itself. You do have to be very intentional, and you have to put in place a lot of policies and procedures to support that culture. And you have to work on it every single day. And I do a whole presentation on workplace culture, and I can provide a lot of tactical strategies and things to do. But at the end of the day, they all come down to a couple of key practices that you can do. So I think the first thing is to listen and be available. So we do a lot of different engagement strategies. We do 4 formal ones throughout the year. And the one that's my favorite is our town halls. So we take the time to meet with every single employee twice a year in small groups, and we ask them questions and we hear their feedback, and people are very open. But you can do that in a lot of different ways. And I've done many leading edge presentations on culture, and I've heard from senior living providers directly that they're actually doing this. They're coming in every shift. Their CEOs coming in and meeting with their employees. So it's definitely doable. So I think being available, being able to listen and have employees feel like they can come to you is really critical. But you have to follow that up with the second part, which is accountability. So you
Yeah.
have to take the feedback you're hearing and show what you're actually doing about it and the progress you're making on it.
Yeah, well, I was thinking too, it's like, that's awesome. And I love that because a lot of companies have year in reviews where once a year you do your performance review. Maybe at that point you get feedback, but you actually flip the script and say, no, we actually want feedback from you. So it's like you're empowering your employee. They feel like they have a voice at the table. But one thing I'm thinking about is, how do you be honest, right? Like, you see posts on social media where it's like a spoof and it's like me deciding how honest I'm going to be with my feedback or that type of thing. How do you put metrics in place or measures in place for people to give you that honest feedback?
I think it goes hand in hand with building your culture. So you build the culture that you want to have, and I think you can do all the things. You can do the engagement and you can do the accountability, you can do the listening. But if you have people on your team that aren't going to participate and are not a good fit for your culture, they need to not work at your company. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's something that people hesitate with. And I think firing is one of the most important parts of building a great culture, because you can have people that can make the whole thing toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that, as you're building that culture of transparency and accountability and collaboration, the people that are not going to participate in that, they either end up leaving on their own, or it's a mutual parting of ways, I feel like.
One of the other things that you've talked about is that you give unlimited time off, and that's even from day one, which is a
Yes.
really bold move. So, what inspired this policy, and has it impacted your team members' well-being and productivity?
First of all, it's not a trick. A lot of people think it's a
Actually,
trick.
yes, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do. We hear that. People are like, do I really get unlimited time off? And the thing is, it's not a free for all. So there's a very specific policy around taking this time off. It's all written down. So there's a certain amount of notice that you have to give. And one thing that we found that's been very helpful is we have very, very detailed time off practices. So when someone is going to take time off, we actually have they create a ticket in our ticketing system, and it's got a checklist of all the things they have to do before they take time off. So they have to run a report and look at all their tasks that are coming up due, and take care of them
Mhm.
before they go out. They have to schedule a meeting with anyone who's their backup. They have to note in their ticket of everything they're working on and where it's at, because we don't want the client to miss a beat because because we have someone taking time off. So, and that's something we learned over time. And also, of course, there's exceptions. Like you can't just take months and months of time off. If there's medical things, it kind of falls outside the policy. And I would say for the most part, the reason I wanted to create a time off policy to answer your first question is I don't want to be anybody's dad or mom, maybe. I'm not, micromanaging their life and saying you're allowed to take this or take that, or you have to make a decision on this or that. I mean, I think our employees are adults and we should treat them as such and that they know how to manage their time. And so, that's really the expectation, is to give people this ability to say, we trust you, get your work done. And, in return, you'll be able to have this unlimited time off policy.
Yeah. Well, I love that you put a checklist in place, and maybe that's the project manager in you, but that's such an important lesson to learn in your career, is that there's a way that you can set yourself up for success to take time off, but also your team, because it's not just you. There's somebody that needs to be able to answer questions that may come up. And so I love that you have the policy around that, just to make sure that your company stays successful and people can feel like they have that time. You also have several employee centric policies. So, can you tell me about your birthday holidays and like the mentorship programs that you guys do?
Yeah, there's so many cool things that we do. I love to talk about this topic because it is really fun. Yeah, employees get their birthday off. We also do a lot of gifts. So, after 90 days, they get it. Well, they get a welcome gift when they join. So they get something, they ask some questions as part of onboarding. They don't know what it's for. So we ask, like, what's your favorite lunch restaurant? What's your hobby? So then we mail them gifts. So like a gift card, or like something related to their hobbies. If they're a gamer, they'll get like something related to gaming. And then at 90 days, they get a gift from our swag store. And then next year, we're rolling out retention bonuses, which I'm super excited about. So think like tropical vacation.
That is so cool.
Yeah, or experience retention bonuses. They can take money too, but we have like a whole bunch of different options, which will be really cool. And we do a new employee social. So every quarter, we bring all the new employees together with myself and our head of HR. We talk through their new employee experience. What can we do better? How was it? What can we improve upon? We do, because again, we're virtual. So we do these they're called lunch networks, and they're hosted by someone on leadership. And it's just for fun. Like I hosted one that was truth or dare. And
Oh my gosh.
it was really fun. We laughed a lot. I had to do the floss on
Yeah, I
on
was about to
camera.
say, what was one of the dares? That's funny.
Yeah. Somebody had to sing, I think, and it was really fun. So we just, try to keep it fun and lighthearted. And, Slack is a really important tool to us. We have a random chat. People are, always just kind of engaging in there. And we also require video. So every time we're doing calls internally, we want people to turn their video on so we can see each other.
Yeah, well, that's a great question that I haven't asked yet, which is, if you are all virtual, how do you keep up the camaraderie? So I love your answer in that and just what you're doing. All right, one last piece of advice I want to get from you before we go, but there are women out there who have a dream in their heart. They're thinking about launching a company, but maybe haven't done it yet. Do you have any advice for them?
Everybody is faking it until they make it. No one has ever done anything until they do it for the first time. And so don't think you have to have it all figured out. Take it one step at a time and figure it out as you go. And the number one most important thing is who you know in your network.
Yes, network.
Yes, you can get so much accomplished just by who you know and the connections you have. And every other founder I've spoken to, especially female founders, they have the same exact experience. They built up a network of people, and that is how they've been able to be really successful.
Is that how you got your investors at the beginning? It was people who
Yes.
you already had a network with?
Yep.
Wow. Good
Absolutely.
for you. That's so cool. What's your like secret networking tip, or do you have one?
Um, I've been on LinkedIn for a long
Mhm.
time, and I feel like LinkedIn is almost a little bit outdated now. And I spent years cultivating my LinkedIn. But I think if you know people, you talk to them and you do a good job, they're going to start talking about you. So
Mhm.
I've heard someone say that it's not who you know, but it's also who knows you.
Yeah.
And so I think it kind of has to go both ways.
Yeah. So it's like whoever it is that you are networking with, you need to think through what their experience is going to be after they've had a conversation with you. So after this, I'm going to be
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, Amber was so cool. Her company is awesome. Her workplace culture. I'm telling other people about that. You want to be thinking about what's that impression that they're going to have of you after the conversation has ended.
Yeah, exactly.
We talked all about growth and culture and all that today. So people want to know, are you hiring?
We're always hiring and we have some very aggressive growth plans. So definitely get in touch with us if you're interested.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Amber. I appreciate it. And we'll see everybody else next week.